بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I pray that you are all well, alhamdulillah, and inshallah I had the opportunity to come join you again this morning. As I told you, it's going to be for the next few weeks hit and miss in the classes. So whenever I have the opportunity, inshallah, I will come on and share some things with you. I want to share with you this morning in our post-Fajr reflections and scattered thoughts, which I'm going to revive. So for the next classes, they'll all be, a post-prayer reflection with scattered thoughts. So I'll try to keep it like that so it's easy to follow in just the date. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, which means ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to us, طالب العلم فريضة على كل Muslim, that seeking knowledge, which is understood to mean al-ilm al-shar'i, the religious knowledge, is an obligation on every Muslim. And he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, من يرد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين. Whomever Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala willed the good things for, he would give them the understanding of the religion. I want us to discuss some things that could be extracted from this verse and these hadith. A point that should be understood, that our religion, Deen al-Islam, the Deen of al-Islam, has sources by which we learn it. There are sources by which we learn it. And for the vast majority of Muslims who have become known as Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, the people of the prophetic way and the majority of the nation, meaning the Muslim nation, they have four main sources to extract religious knowledge. Through some sources, the belief is extracted. Through other sources, the practical rules are extracted. Those four sources are Al-Quran, As-Sunnah, Al-Ijma' and Al-Qiyas. The way that we understand our belief and the rules, so Al-Aqaid wal-Ahkam, the tenets of faith, and the practical rules are by learning from the people of knowledge as to what is the belief and practice in Al-Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ indicated that there are those people when he said that the scholars, they are al-ulama, they are the inheritors of the prophets, alayhimus salatu wassalam. And they inherit knowledge, meaning knowledge of the religion. So we're going to have recourse to the scholars of the religion who extracted from the verses in the Quran and the narrations from the Prophet ﷺ and the consensus of the mujtahid scholars among the companions and the followers of the followers, known as As-Salaf As-Salih, the rightly guided early Muslims. They extracted the beliefs and then the rules and added to new matters that were not mentioned by the previous scholars. They also perform what is known as al-qiyas, for the rules, deductive analogy. That methodology of extracting beliefs and legal rulings is something that is agreed upon by the scholars of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, the people of the prophetic way and the majority of the Muslim nation. What has come to be extremely important in our time, and partly this is why I'm having this discussion, in order for us to practice our religion in a valid manner, and in order that our religious knowledge is transmitted and conveyed in a rigorously authenticated method, it is important for us to know from whom do we take this religion and how do we take this religion. As we mentioned many times, the great follower of the companions, Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Sirin, he mentioned, as Imam Muslim mentioned in the introduction of his Sahih, where he said, "Inna hadha al-ilm deen, fanzuru amman ta'khuduna deenakum." That verily, certainly, this knowledge is the religion. So look well from whom you take your religion. So our religion is transmitted through men and women. And that is the case because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is no longer physically on the earth with us. So everything that we receive from him sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of knowledge has reached us through trustworthy, upright men and women. And when I say men and women, because I will just say men, and you will understand from that that women are included in that, because there were women who did convey this noble legacy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in forms of teaching and instruction. Teaching and instruction. We live in a time of great confusion as to the correct way to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And since we're not scholars, we have to preserve what the scholars of the religion have conveyed and transferred to us, and then we have the responsibility of doing our part in terms of ad-da'wah ila Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, in terms of calling to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala those whom we can reach. You could go to different cities around the country, or you could go online to websites and speakers, and you will hear people saying Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. And for the person who's not aware of scholarship and proper knowledge transfer and chains of narration, they would not recognize if the one who was saying Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah was conveying information that does not coincide with the true methodology of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, which we have to follow in order to correctly follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I have floating across the screen this saying, and I would like you all to post it. And I want to make it a habit of every day we do that, or every time we come on, we do it. So for those who don't need to spell, you can just copy and paste. I would like you all to do that. It's very important. And I don't want to be negligent in that, because it is something that is easy for us to do and we shouldn't neglect it. It's our easy contribution to a da'wah. It's easy, not require a lot of us. And if we're not willing to do what is easy, I can't possibly think how we're going to do what is difficult. The easy things we don't do. What about the challenging and difficult things that have many obstacles and calamities and roadblocks? I don't think we're going to do it if we don't do the easy things. So let us get in the habit of doing what is easy. Click, click, copy, paste, boom, done with it. Why am I saying Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah are al-Asha'ira and al-Maturidiyya? Because we live in a time, in general, and in environments specifically, where this is not understood. In fact, what is dominant in terms of being spread and mentioned is the term Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, but when that is explained and articulated, you would find it inconsistent with al-Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya, which have been for the vast majority of this nation, from the time of those great Imams, Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, rahimahullah, and al-Imam Abu Mansur al-Maturidi, rahimahullah, from their time to today, the vast majority of Muslims have been following their methodology and creed, which is a codification of the creed of the Salaf in its foundational principles. If we don't mention that, those who are conveying a creed other than that, other than the true Salaf, will hijack the name, and then the name will come to represent something that it was not intended to represent in the beginning. And we shouldn't be guilty of allowing that to happen on our watch, when we have the ability to at least speak up about it. So for us, especially us in the United States of America, we have the constitutional right, according to the laws of this country, to have freedom of speech. Use it to protect your religion. You don't have to be silent. You have the right to speak, and no one can take that away from you. Especially in this issue. It's not like only some people are going to be offended by you expressing these things. And they need to be offended if they intend the bad intentions that they are doing with this term, and which is why they would be offended. We don't talk about bear arms or any of that. I want to talk about just your freedom of speech, because if you don't use your speech, I hope you're not going to use weapons, right? So don't speak about weapons. Stick to speech. You have the ability to talk. You have the ability to convey. You can express in writing. It's a freedom of speech. So, and you're not going to harm no one physically by that. So let's start that. Maybe we will never have to use arms if we learn to use our tongues well. Right? So stick to the issue here for a minute. Stick with me for a minute. So it is important that first we get a term to identify something. So when we say Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, or Al-Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya, that needs to become a slogan that we spread. That it becomes like when you say Nike, just do it. Right? You know, that's just known, just do it, Nike. Everyone knows it, right? When you say Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, it should be known among us Al-Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya, right? That's one stage of it. The second stage, and that will take time, is that we learn the creed that was conveyed by those great imams and the generations of scholars and teachers and callers and common Muslims for the past 1100 years of this nation. That needs to become commonplace. We have the ability to do that. If you want something to go viral, let that go viral among us, that we start this campaign of explaining who are Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. And why is it important? Because this is the first thing in the religion that we must learn, that which relates to the correct belief in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and His Messenger in the religion. Before we get to the practical rules, we have to have a sound creed. And the deviation in using the term of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah specifically is related to the creed. I was reading something the other day. I'm doing like a deep dive in my reading and research about certain things from groups that claim to be Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah but oppose Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah in creed and in some issues of practice and spirituality. So they use the name Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but they go against the traditional methodology of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And I wanted to read something to you. Let me grab it. I forgot to grab it. Hold on one second. one of the Saudi scholars who was like a big scholar, because games be played with us and they're not honest with us. So we got to be honest with ourselves. Because sometimes when I speak like this, they'll say, he's causing fitna. My wife calls it passive aggression. They'll say, he's causing fitna when we respond to false claims. It is as if someone is doing something, then when you call them on it, they make you the bad guy. So this author, and this is the book. This book is an explanation of Al-Aqidah Al-Wasitiyah, which was written by Ibn Taymiyyah. But it was commentated by an Egyptian, and I'm going to use their term, Salafi, which we say is Wahhabi, Salafi scholar named Muhammad Khalil Harras. He wrote an explanation on this. And then another African scholar who was in Saudi Arabia wrote a commentary on that commentary. His name was Muhammad Amin al-Jami. This person was one of the foremost scholars in Saudi Arabia in this century. But he's not mentioned outwardly a lot, but they, among them, he's a reference for them, a foremost reference. So he's in that circle of, in terms of being a big teacher, in the Bin Baz circle, Ibn Uthaymeen circle, Fawzan circle. He's in that, at that level, right? He's not some small guy. He's up at the high levels, and all of their teachers that are in our time were students of him or students of him. So he's not some small potatoes in their creed. So he says something on page 102 in the first volume. He mentions that the Ash'aris, right, they believe like we believe. He's talking about his group, the Salafiyah, which we call Wahhabiyah. One, two, just for terminology. And they call themselves Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. So let me put it, I want you to follow. Because I'm talking to us at the basic level so everyone would understand. So it should be clear for everyone. No one could say it was too heavy for me. No, you could understand. So they call themselves as Salafiyah. This is what they call themselves, right? We know them as Al-Wahhabiyya. All right, so I put that. They claim that they are exclusively Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. Sorry, I'm not a fast typer. Right? That is their claim. Can everyone get this point? So I'll put it up. This is what they call themselves, as-Salafiyya. We, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, al-Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya, we know them as al-Wahhabiyya. And they claim that they are exclusively Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Amin is not saying that. This is their Sheikh Muhammad Amin al-Jami in his book. He said on page 102 102 of the first volume of his explanation on the explanation of Al-Aqidah al-Wasitiyya, right? He said that it is an obligation that we believe in the attributes of Allah in the same manner we believe in the self of Allah. That's what he says. يجب أن يكون أمر الإيمان إيمان بصفات الله كأمر الإيمان بذاته سبحانه وتعالى. So he says that the belief in the attributes of Allah must be the same as the belief in the self of Allah. He said we repeat this so that al-Asha'ira, those who believe with us in the self of Allah without a how and without a likeness, but when it comes to the attributes, they affirm some of the attributes and they pervert their speech in relation to other attributes. And they separate what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathered. And this is a contradiction which al-Asha'ira fell into. And just to show you the word al-Ash'ari, you'll see it right there. Al-Asha'ira. He mentions it explicitly, right? Ash'aris, the term I use, right? And down a little further, Al-Asha'ira. He said they fell into contradictions. Move over, Al-Asha'ira. It's the page 102 of this book, right? It's long, so I'm going to continue. He said, we're specifically talking about al-Asha'ira because they are our neighbors. They live next to us. And they are existing amongst us in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They are there. More than other people. So who they're confronting is the Ash'aris, not other groups, right? He said, بِخِلَافِ غَيْرِهِمْ. There's other people, they're not there. The Ash'aris, that's who we're facing. He said, other than them, like Al-Mu'tazila, for instance, they're not around, they're distant from us. They don't exist. He said, but the Ash'aris, Al-Ash'ira, look how he described them. وَهُمُ الْكَثْرَةُ الْكَاثِرَةُ فِي الْعَالَمِ الْإِسْلَامِ. That's heavy. And I want you, this is their words. Look here. Right there. This line. Right here. Right? Look what he said. وَلَكِنَ الْأَشَاعِرَةُ وَهُمُ الْكَثْرَةُ الْكَاثِرَةُ فِي الْعَالَمِ الْإِسْلَامِ. He said, but the Ash'aris, they are a great abundance, a lot of them, in the Islamic world. That's a big description. So they do realize that the majority of Muslims are Ash'ira. This is his words, not mine, and I'm showing it to you. So we're speaking about them, right? He said, we used to speak about them because they weren't in our country. He said, but now they entered the kingdom and they're in the kingdom. So we talk about their books and we warn our students against their books. We warn our students against their books. Since these books are being sold now in our bookstores in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And then he said, Al-Ash'ariyya, on top of that, they call themselves Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, or that they are from among Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah in the least. He said, Al-Ash'ariyyatu ziyadatan ala dhalik. Just on top of that, they call themselves Ahlus Sunnah, or that in the least they are from Ahlus Sunnah. Look what he says. And this is a lie. Laysu min Ahlus Sunnati wal Jamaa'ah. They are not Ahlus Sunnah. Look. Right there. He's talking about the Ash'aris. Right? The Ash'aris call themselves Ahlus Sunnah, or that they're from Ahlus Sunnah. He said this is a lie. Laysu min Ahlus Sunnati wal Jamaa'ah. Laysu min Ahlus Sunnati wal Jamaa'ah. They said they're not from Ahlus Sunnati wal Jamaa'ah. This is what he said. So this is your top scholars in the kingdom. He clearly saying the Ash'aris are not Ahlus Sunnati wal Jamaa'ah. Who are their tulab? Right? We warn tulabana min kutubihim. We tell our students, watch out for the Ash'ari books. Who are the students you're talking about? He was a teacher in the University of Al-Madinah. That's what they're learning. So every person that goes to that school and comes back to our communities has these ideas from them. They come back already prepared to attack what they said in the Islamic world are a great number, abundant number of Ash'aris. Think about that. But he caused them, he said, according to our learned scholars, they are the closest people from the groups of Al-Kalam to Ahlus Sunnah. Right? And then look what he goes on. SubhanAllah. I read this and I was just like, we got to stop being so silent. Like, really, we have to speak up. So he said, our young people need to understand this reality. Because the Ash'ari are spread in the Islamic world, and their methodologies is taught in all of the universities outside of this country. Wow. This is like admittance. The Ash'aris are spread in the Islamic world, and their methodology is taught and studied in all of the universities khariju hadha al-balad, outside of Saudi Arabia. So, by their own admission, outside of Saudi Arabia, the Ash'ari in all of these Islamic universities, except the ones they infiltrated, were Ash'ari, the majority of them. He goes on. In all of the universities that Islam is studied outside of this country, they study the Aqidah on the methodology of the Ash'aris and claiming that it is the madhab of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. This is his own admittance. Subhanallah. Then he continues, and I'll close it, this point. He said, as for the reality and what is occurring, as is witnessed by the most knowledgeable people about them, and as the author of the Sharh, that's Muhammad Khalil Haras, the Egyptian, they are the closest group from the people of Kalam, speculative theology, to Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, walaysu minhum, and they are not Ahlus Sunnah. Here is the book. You don't have to look at me. This is the book. They published it. Volume 1. You see that? Volume 1. And that was the page I was looking at, page 102. So when we say Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or the Ash'aris, are the majority of the Muslim nation, they know that. He said it. But what are they saying? the majority of the Muslim nation is misguided. The majority of the Muslim universities in the Islamic world all have a false methodology, and they are not Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, only us. Should we not challenge such a claim? So that means you have a belief that's different from the whole Muslim world. That's something to think about. I'm going to leave y'all with that right there. I want to continue, so I'm going to have to pick it up because I'm going to finish. But here, they cannot deny this scholar. They cannot. He's inked in the pages of the scholars of Saudi Arabia. Their teachers were next to him. Bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, all of them recognized him. Their students were his students. He was a teacher in the University of Al-Madinah. And he was an authoritative teacher, not just anyone, right? That's how they think. Everyone's misguided. And then I'm going to tell you why they think that. That's a whole nother, that's methodology. That's the actual creed. But we have to, for us, make a decision. Who is Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah? Do we accept the claim of these individuals who said all the other Muslims have a false methodology? All the other Islamic universities have a false methodology of Aqidah, and only in this country we have the correct creed. We are Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. And everyone else, subhanallah. So when the guy comes to me and says, I'm a graduate from the University of Medina, oh, that speaks volumes of your thoughts. And then if you tell me I don't agree, then you need to refute your own teachers, and you should make it public. You should make it that your teachers, and I got a bunch of them, so you're going to get rid of all of them because he was their sheikh, right? They wrote them, and I have it documented. They wrote this. They said it. They said it. They said it, right? It is their position. It is their official position. So when we respond, don't say that we're causing fitna. We were already Ahlus Sunnah as Asha'ira and Maturidiyya. Then these people came, and their movement just came in the beginning of the 13th century. And they challenged 1,000 years of scholarship and said all of them were wrong, except the handful that we select and skip through whole world and generations. So we pick Imam Ahmed ala Za'mihim, according to them, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah, and then we skip 500 years to Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And everyone else was misguided, except those who followed our way. So you took this vast nation from the time of Imam al-Ash'ari and Imam al-Maturidi, who were at the end of the time of the Salaf in terms of time. And if you want to count them, as most scholars do, they were from the Salaf, if you count it from 100 years being a generation. All of them were misguided. And then these few people from the whole ummah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam got it right. And they were not at the level of all the great scholars who existed within these generations. And when we start studying those chains of narration and discovering who they're actually talking about and the level of knowledge and understanding and practice and spirituality of the people they saying were misguidance, we have a challenge in front of us. I want you to think about this stuff, because we can't do a lot. We're not that pious, maybe. We're not that knowledgeable, maybe, but we're not just totally blind. We can use our intellect. We can think. We can research. We can do something, and we can tell the truth. Just make the issue clear, right? Make the issue clear. And if we can make the issue clear and put it as it is, make it clear, I believe that the fair-minded individual will understand that this is a misguidance and falsification of reality. Or at minimum, this thing needs to be looked into a little bit more deeply. It's not as it looks on the surface. This is problematic here, right? And in order to promote this idea, what they would need to do is start altering texts. That's going to be a whole nother set of talks I'm going to give. To alter the books of the scholars to fit their narrative. And we're going to document that too. And down, just do a serious job of identity theft. So they said about Imam al-Nawawi that during the last 3 months of his life, he changed his creed. And he became Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah. He left the Ash'ari methodology at the last 3 months of his life, and he became Ahlus Sunnah. This stuff is incredibly crazy. SubhanAllah. But so when they're telling us, they promoting their ideas in our communities by sending these du'at, these callers with these ideas, but they're from us, and they're doing it all around the world, to where now they're sponsoring people from around that world, which was all deviants, bringing them to Saudi Arabia, programming them, sending them back to their lands, and then injecting their false ideas and creed in the communities. Now, I tell you something. I'm going to ask you this. I'm going out on the limb for us. Not really for us. This is a religious obligation in the best way we can, right? But we need your help. We're talking about generations of our children. If we don't start speaking up, we're going to lose. We already have the struggle against the modern world and what it's pushing to. Listen, don't give our religion away too. This same place who's pushing these ideas, as you look what is happening in their own country, the things we running from, they're letting go like as normal. It's disgusting. The things we ran from to get to Islam, we go to them and they're promoting the same thing, along with those bad ideas from the government side, because they're in power. So their scholars have a rule: don't speak about the authorities, but you can speak about everyone else except your people. And your people are doing the worst of things. How do you judge? How do you judge? Your rulers are in charge. So when all those naked women are walking around the place that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tried to clean the Arabian Peninsula, you making it dirty again. That's your leaders. The place that your forefather Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab slaughtered Muslims to bring it to quote unquote Tawheed, you're letting known kuffar come in there and bring their customs in the same place that he waged war against. But your war is only against al-Asha'ira wal-Maturidiyya, the Muslim nation. That's your war. That's something to think about. That's something to think about. And if someone doesn't tell us, we're in trouble. We can't fight each other over this. We have to educate one another. It can't be arguing and fighting. It's not about that. We really need education because a sinister plot is being played on us. We cannot be silent. We cannot. Maybe others are not faced with the same circumstances we are, but we are faced with a serious circumstance and we cannot be silent. We cannot. We can't afford it. So this is my first thoughts on this subject. There is much more that I'm going to give, but like as I said, set your notifications because like tomorrow I definitely won't be available for sure, and probably the next weekend I probably won't be available. Maybe the closest possible time, maybe Monday or Tuesday, and we'll continue. But I want you to document what I said. That's why I brought the books. I like to bring the books so you can look at the book yourself. Those who can read Arabic and say, "Oh, he's lying." Okay, you do it yourself. Maybe I am a liar. Good, you do it. If that's how you feel, he's making it up. He's like, okay, you read it. Then you translate it and you tell me what it means. Simple. Let's not make that a point of difference. You can read yourself. That's why I told you where it's at. You can read it yourself. right? It's important. They say bring your proof. Here's your proof from your own books. But Abdul Rahim, I would give you a suggestion. You don't need to buy all those books. That's why we brought them so you can see them yourself and you don't have to waste your money. We don't need to all give them all of our money, just some of it so we have the point, right? You can just document it. You don't have to spend all your money in those books. That's why we show them. So the book is there. This is where it is. This is the page. This is the stuff. And this is a part of research. I would say this. You said the old saying, keep your enemies close, not that they are enemies. Yes, they are enemies. Yes, they are. Now, how you deal with your enemy is another story. They are your enemies. They're trying to destroy your religion. That's an enemy. Now, how do you deal with that enemy? Maybe that's what you mean. You don't got to be harsh. Sometimes your enemy don't even know why he's your enemy. He was told to be your enemy. He doesn't know. He became an enemy by default, right? He didn't know. So the one who knows and the one who does not know are not equal. They're not the same. So in our community, you got a lot of brothers and just repeat. That's what's there. They don't know. So you can't treat them bad, even though they're acting on behalf of the enemy who's trying to destroy our religion, trying to destroy our tradition, changing our books. That's an enemy, right? But that doesn't mean that the enemy intends to harm you. Maybe they don't know it's harmful, so you have to teach them. But you cannot neglect the fact that they're doing things that's going to harm you. You follow what I mean? You follow me, Malika? I just clarify it just because sometimes if you don't realize who your ops is, as y'all say, or who the enemy is, you can't protect yourself from them. You know, Hudhayfa ibn Yaman, the companion, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, I learned evil not to commit it, but to protect myself from it. Because the one who does not know evil is likely to fall into it. He used to ask about all the fitna and all the bad things that would happen. No, I agree with you. You just said they're clueless, right? So sometimes the clueless person may be doing the work of an enemy and don't realize it. That's why I said don't treat them bad. But tell them the truth. Listen, I'm going to tell you, can I tell y'all stories from the cell? I'm going to tell you a story. Y'all ready for stories from a cell? Have a little fun. Wait a minute. That was the Imam Naim is always telling stories from the cell. I'm going to tell you a story from the cell. Right? This is my joke. Stories from the cell. One time, I was in state facilities, right? So somebody stole my Walkman. You know, it's like a radio thing, Walkman in those days. And I'm looking all over for this Walkman. I can't find it. But it was unique. I knew mine was like a unique one. So I'm walking on the compound and I see a guy with my Walkman from another. No, he was in my unit. He was in my unit. And I said to him, yo, that's my Walkman. He said, no, it's not. I said, yes, it is. And he said, I got it from so-and-so. I said, I don't care who you got it from. That's my Walkman. And I said, somebody stole it. Whoever gave it to you, then maybe that's the one that stole my Walkman. And either you gonna give it, or you can say, and I'll give you that because you don't know who you get that from. So I get it from him. But that Walkman is coming with me. And he was like, I ain't telling you nothing. I'm like, okay, well, you're going to get where he was going to get. There's no problem, right? And as he was about to get what the guy who stole my Walkman was going to get, he realized that he was functioning as an enemy. He gave that Walkman up, if you get my point. He realized he just had the Walkman, just walking. He didn't realize that he was doing enemy stuff, walking with stolen property. And he was going to challenge that for a minute until he realized that, no, you're going to give that Walkman up. You're not keeping that. You can forget about it. But he didn't realize that didn't change the situation he was in, right? It didn't change the situation. If you get the analogy, that's just a story from the cell. Malika, you get the analogy? I'm just talking to you because you said the question, but the analogy, it's analogy. It's an analogy. It's a real analogy. That person didn't realize what he was in. So in the same way, someone is carrying a bad doctrine that is meant to destroy our tradition, but they don't realize it, right? You can't just let that pass. Oh, don't worry, you don't know no better. No, you're going to harm. I couldn't just say, all right, no problem. You didn't steal it. Go ahead, take my Walkman and see you later. No, 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 no. That's mine. You got to give me my property. So they steal our name and alter our religion. We have to speak up. We cannot just say, no, you don't know no better. We're going to tell you, that's my Walkman. This is our religion, not what you're talking about. If you get the analogy, I hope you do. So that's why we say default Wahhabi. A person doesn't know. He doesn't know. So we're not going to treat someone who don't know like someone who knows, right? So if you walk into the average person like here, they never heard of Muhammad Amin, Aman al-Jami. They never heard Muhammad Khalil Haras. They don't even know who these people are, even though they are very influential figures in the very ideas that they carry, but they don't know them. So they're not the same. Y'all follow? They don't know what they never went to the University of Medina. They don't know what's being taught. They don't know what those scholars say. They don't know. They just know what the shiny book said, and that's what they're following. They don't know. So you don't treat them the same way, or you don't interact or deal with them or speak to them the same way of someone who intentionally is trying to pervert the religion. There's a big difference. So, but that doesn't mean they're not harming. They're still harming, but they don't intend. So you have to help them. And that's what we're doing. We're helping. It's not. And that's why I said we don't need to debate. We need to talk. Because most people don't even know what's happening to debate. Like, I don't even realize what's happening to me. Right? So you have to tell them. Right? All right, Barakallahu Bikum. I went way over time. But inshallah, I think it would be beneficial. So do me a favor, share the video and put in your, don't argue, just put it in your posts on your pages. Just put it. Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaa'ah, Al-Asha'ira wal Maturidiyya. People gonna come. Don't even respond. Just put it. Keep the idea out there. Don't go back and forth. Right? Share the video. Let them attack. Who cares? We just need to get the idea out and then start teaching more. Right? That's it. You don't got to debate. When they come, oh, bid'ah, blah, you don't got to do all that. Just, that's your page. You have freedom of speech. You're not harming nobody. Just put it up and call it a day. Yes, that's correct, Isa. Imam al-Haddad. Kun ash'ariyan. And you're doing a great service. This morning, yesterday rather, I was listening to Habib Umar bin Hafid in Jordan. And he was talking about these issues in his own way. Very explicit in his own way, not like our way, because he's dealing with different people, right? But he was very clear on the issues. And as they say, fil ishara ibara, in the indications of clear expression, right? He was explaining a book by Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir. And he started to explain the issues of the creed. And he went in. Let me see. Hold on one second. Oh, I cannot find it. He went in. I'm sorry, I don't want to take up all your time. Talking about the innocent. Who is closer to the Sunnah, al-Asha'ira or al-Maturidi? They are the same. They are the same. In things that is explicit from the Sunnah, they are the same. In things that are not clearly mentioned in the Sunnah, there's going to be scholarly differences, and that's a natural outcome. So there are foundational beliefs, they are the same, that are clearly mentioned in the Sunnah, they are the same. There are detailed issues that they dealt with that were not mentioned explicitly in the Sunnah. So you're going to have some differences in those issues, but there's a small number of things. Is that clear, Alexandra? Alexander, excuse me. And that's a false idea, like the Sunnah. These were the people of the Sunnah, right? But as I said, it is scholars who extract the creed from the Quran and the Sunnah. Sometimes you may read the Sunnah and misunderstand the creed because you don't know how to properly extract the belief properly. You didn't learn the foundations of the creed. So that's what happens with those Wahhabi people. They extract from the Sunnah that which is not of it and end up attributing to Allah non-befitting attributes. Inshallah, we in the future in classes, I'll mention some. Right here is not really the time, not, and it's more detailed, and I don't want to get distracted with it. But I will mention some of the issues, but it's details. They're very, very, what they say, very fine details in their differences. So you need to know a lot more about the creed itself. So to talk about those details, because there's not a lot. There's only like a handful of issues. In fact, hold up. You can do it yourself. Hold on one second. I think, let me see. Let me help you. If you hurry up so nobody beat you to it, I think we have like 2 or 3 of these left. So give the brother this book will give you that answer. Right here. This is the book, Alexander. And be patient. Give the brother a chance to get the book. Don't everybody rush. I think we only have like 3 copies or something left. So give him a chance to get the book, right? That book right there, Alexander, will give you the difference. And if it's sold out and people beat you to it, send me a message and I'll give you mine if it's all gone by the time you order. But if you wait, I know people, they're going to hit it. But that book will tell you, inshallah. All right, barakallahu bikum. May Allah reward you all, inshallah. I'll see you Monday or Tuesday, inshallah. There will be no class tonight for Sheikh Yahya, as he told you last week. He will resume next Thursday. May Allah reward you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.